Sega, we have got to start talking about your Sonic renders because, oh my lord, these are blech. So it is no secret that over the past probably over a decade now, 3D Sonic renders have gotten very stale. Now it all started probably around the time of Sonic 4 Episode 1's release, where the brilliant model from the Sonic Unleashed renders had all the life and coolness stripped out of it and turned down into this. Now on their own, these renders didn't look horrible or anything like that. If it was just for like this one game, Sonic 4, it would have been alright, I guess. But unfortunately, the quality and basis of these renders became the standard for Sonic renders going for the next 10 years or so. Now it's kinda hard to even say that actually, because a lot of the renders that were seen during the past decade or so weren't actually brand new at all. They were all just reused from that Sonic 4 era kind of thing. Meaning that this lifeless looking Sonic was all we saw for pretty much the next 14 years. Now thankfully the box arts of Sonic games survived these kind of ugly looking renders, but apart from that, all the marketing and merch for Sonic all use these ugly looking renders and it just does not look good. And that brings us to where this video idea even came from. So recently we can see right here from Tails' channel, new Sonic themed events for Angry Birds Friends and Angry Birds Dream Blast were spotted on the App Store. The new events are Sonic and Angry Birds Friends and Sonic's Flash Race. So yeah, if you didn't already know, in the past couple of months, Sega actually went ahead and bought Rovio, the creators of Angry Bird the mobile game. And to celebrate this, recently there have been a lot of Sonic and Angry Birds collaborations in the Angry Birds mobile games, and even some of the Sonic ones too, and we have this video to go along with it. Now, this little video right here is the reason I even wanted to make this video. Because throughout this little clip, we can see there are a multitude of instances where Sonic is seen there but is using past renders. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing in itself, but when you compare those to the brand new renders for the Angry Birds things, it looks very out of place and just bad. Like we have this image right here, and honestly this one doesn't look too bad because the Generations render was always decent and they do kind of do something to make it look good in this kind of lighting. So even though it's still not to the quality that I would expect for a Sonic thing like this, it's alright I guess. But this screenshot right here is where all the problems arise. So we can see on the left there, yeah, the Angry Birds, there's some new looking renders, at least they look new, they might be old, I don't know, but they look decent, right? Then on the right, we have Sega's mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog, with these ugly ass looking renders. Like, what even are these, man? So with Sonic, we're still stuck with the ugly looking Sonic 4-ish renders that we've seen like a billion times. So, I mean, that's nothing to be unexpected, but for Sonic's friends, they all look awful. Okay, maybe Knuckles doesn't look that bad, but Tails and Amy is terrible here. So we'll start out with the least bad thing here. So Tails, the render it's just the coloring really. All the yellow seems to be just one flat color of yellow, like there's no gradient or anything here. It just makes it look very weird with the lighting and no shadows, and it just looks very dated. This is a very old looking render. And then we have Amy over there. Oh my god, that is ugly. That is actually ugly. For context, this render is like, what is it, nearly 20 years old now? Because this is apparently a render from Shadow the Hedgehog back in 2005, around that era. And for some reason, nearly 20 years later, Sega is still using the same render. And it would have been alright if it was a decent looking render, but this is just awful, man. Like, why does Amy look so ugly? I mean, her eyes, her mouth, it just looks bad, man. It just looks awful. And then Knuckles' render looks decent, I think, in my opinion. It's just like it looks old. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say that, oh, but it's just for lack of marketing, so it doesn't matter, right? Surely not. But if these renders are being used to advertise the brand, surely you would want to make them look as high quality as possible, right? Especially when you got these sat next to the fresh looking Angry Birds renders. Like, seriously, there's a massive quality difference here, and it just looks awful on Sonic's part. And what baffles me the most here is that they're using these old renders from like 20 years ago when they've literally made fresh new renders for Frontiers with Amy, Tails, and Knuckles, and they all look decent, nothing amazing, but they at least look new compared to these ones. And then in terms of Sonic's new renders, they all look very, very nice. I mean, we've had that brand new one made for Sonic Colors Ultimate, that looks very good. We have the Frontiers box art, then we have the Japanese box art one. Like, they're all good looking renders that they're just not using for some reason. Now with some of the other Angry Birds collaborations, like this one right here, I think it's for like Angry Birds Friends or something like that. I don't know what the hell this is. But yeah, we can see right here, they've used one of the newer renders, one for Origins, and they kind of changed the colouring a bit too to make it fit more, and yeah, it looks good. Like, that looks good right there. And then in this image right here, we can see they made a brand new render, so they can clearly make new renders and artwork for these kind of things, but they're just choosing not to. Now, the problem with these bad looking renders gets even worse, because we have this image right here of the Angry Birds collaboration with a changed Sonic Generations render. I mean, the positions of the eyes have changed, and a lot of the lighting and the colouring of it has also changed to make it look better. And it looks decent right here, it looks decent. Now, people have looked into this render and found out that it's just the exact same render as before from Generations, except we just put it like Photoshop or whatever and just added some effect to it or whatever. But even if that's the case, this still looks better than the other renders that we saw earlier. So clearly they're showing that they can update the old renders slightly to make them look better, so why don't they just do that? This render looks so much more vibrant and just so much more appealing now compared to the other renders we saw earlier in the video. And then we have this image again right here with small collaborations, and we see on the left right there, we have an edited old render of Sonic there alongside the Angry Birds there. And again, even though it is an old render, they have done some things to it to make it look more appealing and actually fit where it's actually been placed. So they made like 2D-ish and kind of fit in with outside the Angry Birds. And again, old render, but it looks better. But then on the right over there, we have an old untouched render next to the Angry Birds one, and again, the difference in quality here is abysmal. And it gets even worse when you realize like that render right there is the exact same one that's being used to advertise Sonic X Shadow Generations. Like, it's the same render here, man. So clearly there is an issue here. There's clearly an issue. Sega are out here mixing old renders with new renders with edited renders all into one thing, and it just looks very weird. It's one thing to have like different art styles of renders, that's not an issue here, but when you've got stuff like this image again right here, I'm going to pull it up again. You've got the render on the right there, that's an old render. Then you got the new kind of edited Generations one in the middle there. Then we got some brand new ones on the left, but again, some edited ones. But you see what I'm trying to get at here. There is just no consistency here with the brand at all, and it's seriously an issue. Like, for how long are Sega going to continue to reuse and reuse these over a decade old renders? Like, they're literally just showing right here that they can bring back old renders but touch them up a bit to make it look better, but they just don't do it for all of them, and again, it looks weird. If they're going to reuse decade old renders, at least use some of the good ones, like the Unleashed era ones. Those look pretty darn good. I mean, it's the same design, same model, but the lighting and everything about them is just so much better and cleaner. It just looks so much better with the Sonic 4 era ones that we have just been used everywhere now. And again, the new renders that are being made nowadays for like Frontiers and Colors Ultimate, they all look good. Like, they're not bad renders at all. They can make good looking renders, but they're just choosing not to. And yeah, I guess it is cheaper to just use old renders because Sega is a company after all, and they probably don't see this marketing stuff as a big thing to spend that much money on. But in my opinion, I think they should be spending money on this, in my opinion. Like, I do think they should be. They're trying to put Sonic out there to the world, and they're out here using these ugly looking renders. Like, Sonic is supposed to be cool, and these Sonic 4 era ones, especially these Sonic 4 era ones, don't look cool at all. Some of them have nice poses, but you know what's the biggest issue with it? It's the face. Sonic's face in every single one of these Sonic 4 era renders is exactly the same. He's doing that same darn smile, his eyes in the same position, nothing moved with the eyebrows or anything like that. It just looks so lifeless and corporate. It leaves every single render looking the exact same and having no personality or anything that stands out about them. It just looks bad. That's all I can say. It looks bad. So okay, we have now pointed out the issues, so the question is, how do we fix it? And honestly, it really isn't that hard, honestly. You either, one, make new renders and make them look good, and that's all I can say really, or two, you bring back the old renders but at least touch them up and make them look decent like they have done for this Generations render. And actually, hold on, there's a third one too. Instead of using the Sonic 4 era renders, use the renders that actually just look good. You know, the ones like you made for Frontiers, those look good. Kind of, for the most part. So for crying out loud, Sega, stop using ugly looking renders, make some new ones, please, for the love of God, I'm begging you, please. please do it. You could easily make Sonic seem like a much cooler franchise if you just made the renders look better. Like, that's all it is, man. It's really all it is. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to make this video because, yeah, this Angry Birds crossover stuff just really brought into light how bad some of these Sonic renders truly are. Like, it's actually embarrassing seeing, like, Angry Birds, a very niche franchise that was just stuck on mobile, compared to Sonic the goddamn Hedgehog, who's on, like, literally everything. Like, games, movies, TV shows, and he's just stuck with these terrible looking renders. It's just... It really is just embarrassing. And if we want Sonic to be on top of the world again, though was he ever on top of the world? I don't know, but if you want to at least reach there somehow, we gotta start from square one by starting off fixing these renders, man. Just fix them up, please. But what do you guys think of this topic? Do you think these new Sonic renders nowadays should be used instead of the Sonic 4-ish looking ones, or not? I don't know why you wouldn't think that, but yeah. Let me know down below. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, especially that last one. Don't forget to become unleashed. Pressing that join button down below. Remember, it's not necessary. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.